Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramon, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
One. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I am so excited to have you join us today, or today, if you speak a different language. We dedicate this podcast to exploring the idea of doing business with a servant's heart and life with a servant's heart to make a difference in your world. We also created this show to impact your world by educating you, motivating you, inspiring you through our guest. And guys and girls, I've got an incredible guest. I spent 5 minutes and my energy's off the charts. But while you're listening to him today, I want you to think about, this is your call to action. Think about how you're going to serve yourself and how you're going to serve others today and what impact you create today. And the key word is today. Get messages all the time. I waited. Just listen to this great podcast to go out and serve somebody. Small or little, doesn't matter. Just have that servant's heart. And today's episode is proudly sponsored by our incredible partner, Pantheon Alliance. Would you like to be part of an exclusive community of high-income, successful business owners and entrepreneurs from very diverse industries? Together, they're building a thought leader expertise platform to impact and change the world. So for more information on that, just reach out to me. We're going to talk about impact and change again, as when you're a servant's heart, you're impacting people. And of course, with a servant's heart, you're impacting people with a positive light, a positive energy. We're going to talk about a subject that we just got into right before the show that we're going to get into now because now we're recording. First, I want to welcome AK to the show.
Steve, thank you very much. And I just appreciate the conversation we've already started that people haven't actually had the opportunity to hear as we were just kind of going back and forth about just life and just career. So happy to have this conversation.
Let's jump on. But first, I got to say, when I have a guest that's got the easiest name in the world, I can say, my English language is pretty good. It's easy to say AK. Some of the guest names I can't pronounce, but AK is easy.
Yeah, it's easy, A than K.
Well, let's make it easy about life and work. I hear all the time, I told you before the show, coaches, nothing against you, but you're always trying to balance work and life. You're an expert on this. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so one of the biggest questions that we talk about is this thing called work-life balance. And everybody pushes back against it for obvious reasons. And so a lot of the work that I do is in this term and this research that we do on work-life integration. Now, what does work-life integration mean? Now, I'm going to give you just a quick number on what this means. It means that, I do a lot of research and we determine that 43% of work-related challenges have nothing to do with work. As a matter of fact, it's actually things that happen outside of work, maybe like personal or relationship challenges. And so we often say that we bring work home. What we're really also saying is that we also bring home to the workplace. But when you get to the workplace, they say, you know what? We don't want to hear about it. But just because we don't want to hear about it doesn't mean that it's not affecting people. But what does this actually look like? I often talk with I work with a lot of high stakes leaders, meaning if they don't do a good job, right? Maybe a CEO, someone in private equity, that's going to either be their company goes under, it's going to be a loss of reputation, a lot of revenue being lost. Right? That's who we work with a lot. We've been doing this 4-month study on this particular audience. And oftentimes you might see, okay, my work score maybe went down, but it might have been for something as small, as this point as, my mom's in hospice care. Or my kids are, we're not vibing very well. Or it might be like my personal health has been lacking because I haven't been sleeping for a while. And so what we're really doing is we're trying to identify what is actually what we call like the 80-20 or the green zones that actually puts individuals into high performance mode towards work-life balance, because balance says 33%, 33%, 33%. We don't have enough time in the day. But we've identified but what are the activities that actually contribute most to your success, your green zones, or cause you to drop down the most, what we call the red zones.
Wow. Well, the 43% challenges from home is because you're right. We always say, don't bring work to home. Don't bring work to home. That's your family. Yep. That's amazing because 4 or 5, I would say 4 to 15%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we've got this situation. I don't want to call it a problem because, well, it is a problem, but it's fixable. You have a solution. Talk about your great solution that you have.
Well, so what we do is I have a research and analytics company. It's called LeadLift. And so what we're doing is if you want to find a solution to something, you have to first track it, because you can't measure something you're not first tracking. So one of the first questions we have to ask individuals is, from our research, we identified what's the number one thing that actually creates high performers? And the answer was consistent, structured self-reflection. Now, what does that mean? Okay. If I were to ask you, oftentimes when you're walking down the street, somebody asks you like, whoa, Steve, how you doing today? What do most people say?
Doing good.
Good. Living the dream.
Yeah.
But if I asked you the question, well, Steve, tell me today about how your relationship with your family is today.
Challenging.
Right.
Happy, multiple
right.
answers.
So what you do is, it's when you talk about consistent, structured, right? The structured is, well, you have to be more specific. So what we do is we first have to make sure that what are we tracking? We track 4 different areas. The first area is overall well-being. We just said, well, if I were to ask you randomly, how are you doing today from 1 to 10, what would you say? Good. Might say an 8. Things are going well. I feel happy. The second area that we track is career and work. There's everything from, projects you might be engaged in, financial. Do you feel fulfilled in the work that you're doing? Once again, 0 to 10. The third area is relationships. This is everything from friends, family, loved ones, and even pets. And then the final one is personal. And that is, imagine you're on a desert island all by yourself. No relations, no work. How would you rank yourself then? Oftentimes that has to do with health and fitness routines, mindsets. Are you able to engage in the activities that you wish you want to engage in? So the ORAC scores are overall, work, relationships, and personal. And so we really have a graphical chart that's actually able to track each and every single of these every single day. Now, there's a process that we take people through when we are able to track and identify. It's then called the CIC approach: clarity, intentionality, and consistency. Now, this is backed by cognitive behavioral therapy. We have a team from all around the globe helping us put this together. But let me show you how this looks like in practice. So the first is, you have to first, when you do that consistent, structured self-reflection, we'll take a moment to identify, how do you feel? How do you think? Why do you feel the way that you do? And I was actually working with a leader, and I'll give you an example on this. And he gave himself like a 6 overall, a 5 in the work, a 4 relationally, and a 2 personally. Those were his scores: 6, 5, 4, 2. And I asked him the question of, well, why are you a 4 relationally? And he said, well, you know what? Me and my wife haven't gone on a date night the last 6 months. C, clarity. Just being clear about how you feel. I is intentionality. Okay? So now, since you feel that way, what's one intentional action you'll take today to improve that score? Now, before I even ask him that question, if you haven't gone on a date with your loved one for 6 months, what kind of advice do you think I might give that individual?
Go on a darn date.
Go on a date. Like, am I going to ask you, like, well, tell me about your childhood? Tell me about your past. Like, no, just go on a date with your partner. And so we have the CIC, so clarity, intentionality, and the last one is consistency. So let's say you have that clarity, you have that intentionality, and then you go on that date, and that score moved from a 4 to a 7 the next day. We've now tagged that as what? A green zone activity. So now what we know is you want to have clarity, intentionality, and consistency in your green zone activities in all of these 4 areas. And the reason why this is so important, and we were talking about sports beforehand, is there was a study that was done. They identified that 9% of individuals that set a goal on day one are able to achieve it a year later. Okay, 9%. But 46% are only able to last 30 days. And then 23% only 1 week. So oftentimes we talk about that individual needs to have, is it about the best idea? Is it about being the most innovative? When in reality, the secret to success, the secret to high performance is just consistency. Just consistency. So if you have the clarity of what you need to do to improve that relationship, improve your well-being, improve that business, and you have the intentionality. I mean, it doesn't have to be these big actions. It's going to be less than these 5 seconds, 5-minute actions, these small actions. And you do that consistently in the areas that are going to be your green zones. After 30 days, we've seen people's lives transform in just 30 days. But in addition, simply just removing also just the red zone activities. For me, when I want to get back in shape, if I checked my phone the first 5 minutes in the morning, it was an 86% decrease in the likelihood of me going to the gym and meditating that morning. So my goal was, don't focus on going to the gym. Just focus on not bringing out your phone the first 5 minutes, because that's what's actually going to lead you to show up better for yourself and others.
So that's clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And then intentionality is don't focus on the phone anymore.
Yep.
And then C is do that 30 days.
30 days?
And the habit's gone. The negative
Exactly.
habit.
Exactly. 100%.
Oh my God.
And we're tracking this through data. We actually have a platform you can actually watch this. And then we're also using, obviously, AI as a conversation, but we're actually able to track and put correlation data and anomaly data based on it identified for me when you log for 30 days, that when I go to Gold's Gym versus doing a home workout, it is a 2-point lift in my personal score. When I do a home workout, it's only a 0.8. Now, why, when you think about it, is I work from home. And when I leave and go to Gold's Gym, I work at the Gold's Gym in Venice as well. If you've ever heard about the Gold's Gym in Venice.
Oh, yeah. I'm in California. I know all about that. I've been there.
Right? It's taken that 20 minutes of a reset to get in the car. And now I'm around other like-minded individuals. Right? And that's what creates the 2-point lift literally within the same day. And so most of us, when we talk about work-life balance with work-life integration, it is not about me doing a million things. It's about me doing few of the right things.
Get my head spinning. First, I tell people when I mentor them, get better 1% every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's minimalized, not minimalize what you're saying, but that's what you're saying. You've got this clarity. Do that step like, okay, I'm going to lose a pound a month. What are you doing? The intentionality. Oh, this is because you simplified it. And the other thing I'm hearing, it's self-awareness.
The biggest piece, the number one factor. So we did a study of over 3,000 data points of these high value, high stakes leaders. And we identified what were the 2 main themes that caused a raise in performance and a drop in performance. Right? We already talked about the first one, consistent, structured self-reflection. That is taking a moment to think about how you feel about getting structured by breaking it down into 4 different areas, and consistency. Right? That's the first. We talked about that. But another one that was also key was the number one way to get back what we call rebound time or resilience. So meaning, let's say you had a green zone, all of a sudden you got knocked down, something external happened. Maybe, you lost a big client or a big deal, or maybe someone, had a fight or something you didn't have control over. And the number one way to get back is vulnerability. The number one way, once you drop, to get back to your green zone was vulnerability. Now, what does that mean, what you're just saying? Is self-awareness. Is the faster you can basically own your shit, basically. The faster you can be like, well, why do I feel this way? For me, I was working at Google for a while. And during that time, I had a fiance. And we had a little one. And right after the little one was born, my fiance decided, you know what? I don't want this anymore. I don't want this anymore. And I could have gotten pissed off. I could have gotten mad. And obviously I did. I was frustrated. But then it came to a moment of also thinking, you know, Icky, remember those times when she was saying, hey, Icky, just put your phone down? When you guys were at home and, you know, just trying to connect over dinner and you were always saying that one last thing. Maybe you could have put that away. Right? Because if I just keep on blaming her, or if I just realize, you know what, you just lost that deal, that big client deal. And it's like, oh, well, you remember all those times when you said you were going to follow up with them in 24 hours and it kind of went like 36 hours? Remember all those emails you said you were going to send, but you kind of just said, you know what, not going to do that. So the faster you're able to own your stuff and have that self-awareness is what actually got people back the fastest. Now, the number one factor to the biggest drop and the immediate drop was a lack of sleep. The number one factor. And it was a 48 to 72 hour recovery time.
Wow. Well, and it's interesting. You reverse the CIC with your fiance.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have done CIC, you probably would have been married. Exactly. So being self-aware to go back, I love rebound time because we're sports guys. So and rebound means basketball rebound, but
yeah.
So that's what you did. Is you took your lead lift and looked back, go, okay, I'll never do that again. My next fiance, I'm going to be intentional and I won't turn on the phone and wait to do those, whatever you were doing with the phone.
Yeah. And this is, if you were to ask when we go to CIC, we work with a lot of high performers. Mm-hmm. And the problem is when we talk about, I'm going to also talk about athletes, is because the same way that we praise athletes is actually in direct conflict of how we praise CEOs. It's exactly the opposite. If you were to look at some of the top athletes in the world, it's not because of what they did on the field that made them the most successful, but it's oftentimes what happened off the field. So, for example, use an example like Tom Brady, even though he's going through his marriage situation, but let's just say beforehand, if you saw him in the, 1999 draft, NFL Combine, he did not look like the Tom Brady he does today, meaning he was less athletic.
Yes. Yeah.
He was less athletic 20 years ago. But it's actually what he's done with the TBS, what he's been able to do off the field through recovery, through really these different protocols and modalities to help him actually become stronger. It was a rest and recovery. In addition, you also see athletes when they are at press conferences. You see Steph Curry and all of a sudden the kids come up on the stage. And we love that. We love that. But it's also they're taking time personally. But now if an athlete overtrains, what do you see?
Injury.
What happens? Yeah, they get injured.
Yeah.
Well, and you see that. You see a cast on their leg. You see crutches. But in the corporate, if somebody overworks or overtrains, what do you see on the corporate side?
Uplift him, raise the roof. The guy's a rock star. He did 80 hours. He's a billionaire.
He's a billionaire. But we may not see, you don't see the crutches. You don't see maybe the broken relationships, haven't been sleeping, the stress on the mental stress. You know, oftentimes after I work with leaders, after I work with them the first time, usually the common most two action items after I meet with them the first time are these two. One is, how can I go home and tell my partner thank you? And number two is, how can I get back to a healthy fitness routine consistently? It's never about business. Because why? They have a board of advisors. They have an executive team. But the moment they take off that hat and get into the car, they're in a team by themselves. But nobody sees that.
Yeah. And take it even further. This is kind of smart, Steve. Talking to myself on my own show. Is they have these two problems, but then that company starts failing or going bankrupt, or he has to fire all that stress. Now that adds even more to the other two, right? And it makes it even worse. Now we've got a catastrophic situation.
Where most of these individuals, if you didn't realize, when I talk about work-life integration, we do it from a 0 to 8 scale. And From 0 to 3, we say it as it's warning time. This is warning. It's on verge of burnout. 4 to 7, yellow, and then the green is from 8 to 10. But most people don't realize if you're not in the 8 to 10, you're on the verge of some of these individuals in survival mode. In survival mode. And if you're not able to bring all of these up, then yeah, you might have that successful business, but you might fall into yourself in my situation.
Yeah.
A break in a relationship.
I'm going to ask a poignant question. It's personal, not personal, but serious. Is this part of the reason why we have more suicides now?
I would say it's most likely. I think the biggest problem is that when we have suicides, people feel like they don't have control over their life or their situation. And they don't feel like they have a way out of it. So one of the things that we need to do is we need to actually talk about having this moment of vulnerability, of self-reflection. But self-reflection isn't enough. Because self-reflection will give you awareness. But the question we ask people every single day is, but what are you going to do today? Just to move that just 1%. Just 1%. We're not asking you to do 10%. Just 1%. And then when you wake up the next morning, you go from a 4 to a 5. Okay, you're 5 today. How do you feel? What's one thing you can do today to get you to a 6? Just one thing. But when you continually do that, and we talked about this earlier, is if you go through that process 30 days in a row, 60 days in a row, it's not about just the CIC process. You've now created a habit of awareness, action, consistency. Awareness, action, consistency. You've put yourself in action-oriented mode. Because I think people forget it's not only about the awareness, but what are you going to do about it is the most important factor.
And it's the right actions too. Like you said, clarity, intentionality, consistency. The intentionality is important. You could have, because I agree with you. I go to the gym now. I mean, I used to manage gyms in my family, so I know. You're right. I feel so. I'm not. Audience is why I love a great guest. He just gave me enlightenment because I didn't realize I'm feeling better because I'm going to the gym 3 days a week and working out twice here and 3 there. And this is why I love coaching when it's great coaching like this. Game changer. And it could be as simple as that. Real quick, we're getting to the end of the time here, but the Next Right Move is such a great name for a book. What's the mission and topics of it?
Well, exactly what we talked about. The next right move is we are living in a moment of a lot of uncertainty, meaning we always talk about AI and we're talking about the job force. And we just had, Trump just came in the office. No matter what side, there's going to be changes that are happening, right?
Yep.
New administration. So a lot of us are dealing with uncertainty. And so the goal we always want to ask people, kind of going back to the CIC, is what's just going to be your next right move? And I break it down into you have to first have that awareness. You have to create that consistency. What are going to be the things that we call are your roadblocks, the things that you need to remove out of your life? What are the support systems that you need to add into your life? And then the funny thing is I can talk about this now, is it's funny because the last chapter, the last page on day 100, it takes you through a 100-day process. It asks you the question, if you've ever seen the movie Benjamin Button, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Have you ever heard of that? Watch that movie?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Brad Pitt.
And there's an amazing quote that I love. And Brad Pitt, or Benjamin Button, has basically been away from home for a while. And he comes back home. And he's sitting there and he almost just says, like, the people are the same, like the table's the same, the room is the same. But the thing that has changed the most is me. And so what I talk about is like when you're going through these changes, most people may not even see it. They might even aware of it at the very beginning. But we realize at the very end, everything that we could have done on day 100, we actually could have done on day 1.
Yeah.
But now when we look at work-life integration, most people think that it's about getting the 10 out of 10. Because once you get to the 10 out of 10, you're then like, no, I've done it. But this is where it comes to self-actualization. We flip it on its head. Because once you get to 10 out of 10, that is when life begins, not when it ends.
Amen.
We think that's the end goal, but that's just where it starts. Now, since you know you have control over your life, the actions you take, now what decisions do you want to make? Now, how do you want to be a leader to the world and yourself?
It's been such a great show. I'm going to ask a favor.
Yeah.
We got to do part 2, bring work-life integration to AI, because we didn't have enough time, and I knew we wouldn't because we dive into this. Let's have a little bit of fun. I like to improv at the end. So what you got is a reservation at a restaurant, table of 4. You, of course, in one of the chairs. In the other 3 empty chairs, who would you invite, dead or alive? Why would they be invited? And what food would you order?
Even though I do improv with some Second City. So if we were to, I'm going to do some yes and to this. So if I could, I would have my 12-year-old daughter at 30. Would be the first one.
Ooh.
Right. And I would want to know, what impact did you have when you were a little one that helped shape you the most today? And then I would have her make her dish of spaghetti and see how that's transformed over time.
Very cool.
I would also have, dead or alive, I would actually want to have Barack Obama to be another one. And the reason why is because, from someone that didn't always grow up in politics, I've always wanted to wonder, like, what type of mindset did you need to have to believe that you could have been a president of the United States? And the reason why I say that when I talk about first African American is because he was the first one, right? What made you think so when you saw nobody to think that this was a possibility that you can do? You know, what was the mindset you had? And then the last one, and I'll kind of combine this, I would make it to be my mom and my dad. And they're both
bring an extra. Yeah.
It'd be my mom and my dad. And the reason why is because there's been so much impact. And I had a conversation with my parents, they're here for the last 2 days. And they just did a surprise trip to Hawaii. But I want to have a really direct conversation with them to hear about their story and to be amongst my little one and these other individuals to almost like say, hey, 3 generations are coming together. And let's have an intentional dinner, and I'll have them make, and I'll make the food. So my parents made me this, I'm Nigerian, so they made this food called fufu and pounded yam and a goosey stew. So that's what I'd make, and I let them know, yo, I'm okay. Everything's good to go. You've done an amazing job, and thank you.
I've asked that question over 200 times. You first time somebody Benjamin Button, the guest, taking your daughter from 12 to 30. What a great feat to that. Nobody's ever done that. I liked it. That's very interesting. Great. That's awesome. AK, you're unbelievable. You are just a servant's heart. You're helping people understand work life. People listening, I know, want to support you or connect with you. How can they do that?
Well, I'm one of the few Ikwuakors or Coach AKs in the world. So hit me up. I mean, I think overall, we're doing a lot of research on high stakes leaders and what they're experiencing. And so we're going to be running another pilot of leaders. If they want to get a really detailed report of actually, like, what are your green zones? What are your red zones? How can we get you into work-life integration in 30 days? And then just provide some insights. Like, we are a research company. We want to make sure that we're making the most impact on the world. So the more people that we can get into work-life integration, our goal is 1 million by 2030. Nice. And we want you to come on board with that.
I'm all in there. Is there email? Where can they find
Yeah.
you?
So, I mean, like, as I say, like, you can go to LinkedIn. You can go to my website. LinkedIn. You can go to coachak.com. And I think the reason why I said my name is one of the most unique, you can Google me and a lot of stuff will come up on ways to find me.
So if you want to SEO, just have a unique, different last name. That's it.
It helps. I think I'm the only one in the world.
We just solved the marketing problem.
Exactly.
Oh, AK, you're awesome. Thank you so much for being a guest. I can't wait for you to come back. And audience, here's your call to action at the end. If you've gone this far, and I hope you have, because this guest has blown me away. I'm sure my pad's full of notes. But your call to action, subscribe to the YouTube channel. here's why. Not for, I love my subscribers, but you're listening to AK and you're going, God, I've got a couple people that could really use CIC. Share this link with them. What a great way to serve somebody. What a gift. Hey, I just listened to AK on this show. He's amazing. He was talking about clarity and intentionality, and they can watch it and get 10, 15 minutes of AK and see his passion. And then he can connect with AK and be part of this lead lift program. And it's powerful. Normally, a lot of people aren't talking about it, but to me, that's the power of a podcast. You can go out and give gifts to others by sharing these wonderful guests. And as always, me and AK want to thank you all so much for watching or listening to this podcast. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.